The rock cycle. Often when studying the different types of rocks, there is a tendency to think that it always goes from magma to igneous to sedimentary to metamorphic. Well, it's actually a little more varied than that. So what we're going to do is look at the rock cycle in terms of what you start with, what material is your starting point, and look to see what does that turn into. So the first thing we're going to start with is magma. Well, when you have magma, the one thing it can do is cool and solidify. And when it does that, it turns into an igneous rock. So that's a fairly simple starting point. But what if we start with an igneous rock? Well, one of the things that can happen to an igneous rock is it can be weathered. And if you're weathering it, you're breaking it down into pieces, you now have sediment. It's not a rock yet, but through the process of compression, it will turn into a sedimentary rock. So you can turn your igneous into a sedimentary rock by first breaking it down into pieces, and then through compaction or compression, it will eventually turn into a sedimentary rock. But that's not all that you can do with an igneous rock. You can also apply heat and pressure. And when you do that, it goes straight to being a metamorphic rock. So an igneous rock can turn into a metamorphic rock as long as you apply heat and pressure. Or your igneous rock could get melted. For example, through the process of plate tectonics, it could get pushed back into Earth's interior and get pushed deep enough to actually melt and turn into magma. So our igneous rock can turn into sedimentary, metamorphic, or magma. What if we start with a sedimentary rock? Well, we can have weathering apply to that. We can break down our sedimentary rock, turn it back into sediment, and then through compaction, it turns back into a sedimentary rock. It's going to be a different one than what you started with, but you can create this kind of little loop process between sedimentary rocks and sediment back to sedimentary rocks. What else can we do to our sedimentary rock? Well, we can apply heat and pressure, and that turns us into a metamorphic rock. Or we can melt it and turn that back into magma. So our sedimentary rock can break down and turn into a different sedimentary rock. It can experience heat and pressure and turn into a metamorphic rock, or we can melt it and turn it into magma. And then lastly, starting with our metamorphic rock, we can apply weathering, and it will turn into sediment, and then through compaction, turn into a sedimentary rock. We can apply heat and pressure and have it become more metamorphosed. So you will get larger grains and more foliation through this process. Or we can melt it and turn it back into magma. So our rock cycle is not this nice kind of implied igneous, well, first magma to igneous, igneous to sediment to sedimentary, sedimentary to metamorphic. But all of these other possibilities in between, there's lots of paths to each of these. And so the rock cycle has a very convoluted path in some cases to get to your final product. But all of these different paths are possible, and all of these different paths fall within the rock cycle.